Are you building a retirement nest egg, or are you accidentally building a tax trap? We are moving out of falling taxes and
Imagine building your financial future on advice that is decades out of date. Most of us are told that the 401k is the ultimate retirement tool. But the sources suggest there is a secret the wealthy understand that common investors don't. We have been trained to believe that tax-deferred growth is always the winner, but that math only works under very specific conditions that may be disappearing as we speak. Today, we are breaking down why your 401k might actually become a chain around your neck if you aren't careful. It is time to look beyond the standard advice and understand strategic alternatives that provide control and tax-free income. To understand why the 401k is being questioned now, we have to look at when it actually made sense. In the past, tax rates were generally coming down. The strategy was simple: you take a tax deduction today when your rate is high, let the money grow tax-deferred, and then you retire and pay taxes at a much lower rate later. It was a winning trade for many years. However, the sources point out a critical flaw in continuing this logic today. We are no longer in a declining tax environment. If the fundamental reason for using a 401k, paying lower taxes later, is no longer true, the entire strategy begins to fail. We often think of tax deferral as saving money, but the sources argue you are actually just pushing a bill into the future. The warning is clear: taxes are likely going to have to go up significantly. If you defer your taxes today while rates are relatively low, only to take that money out when taxes have spiked to 50% or 60%, you haven't saved anything, you've increased your future bill. It doesn't make sense to take money out of your check today and hide it away just to pay a much higher percentage to the government later. This is the primary trap the wealthy are currently avoiding. Don't get it wrong, the 401k isn't entirely bad. There is one specific scenario where it is unbeatable: the employer match. If your company offers a 401k match, the sources say you should absolutely take it. For example, if you put in 4% and your company matches that 4%, that is an immediate 100% rate of return on your money. You won't find that kind of guaranteed gain anywhere else. The strategy the wealthy use isn't about ignoring the 401k entirely, but about knowing exactly where to stop. The match is the golden ticket, but anything beyond that requires a different approach.
The mistake most people make is putting every extra dollar into their 401k simply because it's convenient. But according to the sources, once you have captured that 100% return from the match, you shouldn't put another penny into that account. Why? Because above that match, the 401k loses its primary advantage. You are locking your money into a system where you have no control over future tax rates and limited access to your own funds. Instead of overfunding a vehicle that might become a burden, the wealthy look to pivot their capital into assets that offer more freedom.
So where should that extra money go once you've hit your employer match? The sources suggest a specific alternative: cash value life insurance. While many view life insurance purely as a death benefit, the wealthy use it as a strategic accumulation tool. By shifting funds into these policies instead of overfunding a 401k, you are positioning yourself for a different kind of retirement. The goal here is twofold. You want to be in control of your capital, and you want to ensure that when you finally retire, your income isn't subject to the whims of future government tax hikes.
Control is a theme that comes up constantly when discussing how rich people manage money. A 401k is governed by strict government rules regarding when and how you can access your money without penalties. The sources emphasize that the wealthy want to be in control of their wealth at all times. By utilizing cash value life insurance instead of just relying on an IRA or 401k, you gain a level of liquidity and flexibility that traditional accounts cannot provide. You aren't just saving for a distant day, you are building a pool of capital that you control, rather than being at the mercy of shifting legislative rules.
The sources use a very powerful analogy for the 401k and the IRA. They describe them as chains around people's necks. It sounds harsh, but it reflects the regret many feel when they realize how much of their wealth is actually trapped. when you retire and realize that a massive chunk of your savings belongs to the IRS and that you have no way to lower that bill because tax rates have climbed, the 401k feels less like a gift and more like a weight. The goal of the wealthy is to avoid that regret by diversifying out of tax-deferred accounts before they become an inescapable burden.
There is a massive difference between tax-deferred and tax-free. Tax-deferred effectively means pay me later, while tax-free means it is all yours. The sources highlight that the ultimate goal for a secure retirement should be tax-free income. By using products like cash value life insurance, you're essentially positioning yourself so that the growth and the eventual income are shielded from the IRS. In an environment where taxes are expected to rise to 50% or 60%, tax-free income is the ultimate hedge against government debt and changing fiscal policy. Why is there such a gap between what the average worker does and what the wealthy do? It comes down to foresight. The sources explain that rich people understand the current trajectory of the economy. They see the rising national debt and the inevitability of higher taxes, and they realize the 401k was a product designed for a different era of falling rates. They aren't following the herd mentality of just set it and forget it. Instead, they are active in seeking out tax-free corridors that protect their purchasing power for the long haul. One of the most sobering warnings in the sources is that many people will deeply regret how much money they put into 401ks and IRAs. That regret usually hits during the distribution phase, when you realize you are a silent partner with the government and they get to decide their share of your life's work. If you have put in 30 years of effort, you want to be the one who decides how to spend your money. Diversifying into strategic alternatives now is the best way to ensure that your future self isn't looking back wishing you had taken control sooner. To wrap up our series, the 401k isn't a bad tool, but it is often an over-leveraged one. The strategy is clear. Capture your company match because that 100% return is too good to pass up. But once that match is secured, look for alternatives that provide the control and tax-free status that the wealthy prioritize. Don't let your retirement fund become a chain around your neck. Consider cash value life insurance and other tax-free vehicles as a way to protect your wealth from future tax spikes. It is your money. Make sure you are the one who keeps it.
The era of set it and forget it is over. Take the power back. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Comment control below.